New starting spot for this race at Le Mans. Tolly has elected to go around the outside as we're doing our self-induced start. He just has entered to the start zone about now, and now it's up to him from here on in to start the race as we're travelling down. It's up to the sight board up ahead. It looks like he's just put the foot down. It is go. Everyone is away. Clean start for everyone. Looks down the backpack there that people are shuffling around to get into good position. You can see there Tolly's got a bit of a jump there. The two Pagnian drivers hot on his heels. So we have Cobber and Hogs. Looks like Eccles does a bomb around the outside. We tear off down to the next chicane along the Melson Straight. We have some shuffling happening around in the back part there. We riding with Privateer Osglen, Brits Lightning, Anders and Eccles from the Bruce Hale Racing. And finding up the rear we got the two Selby Racing drivers of Duck and TGT. Evil Moon making a challenge on Emo, the gamesman. Emo the privateer. Big dive on the inside by Moon. Emo lets him through. A bit wide, pushing wide. Bit of a tackle there. Glenn gets around in amongst it all. And it's racing flat out the first lap of this endurance race. Anders coming around the Mulsanne corner, goes wide, gives a chance for, he looks like he's touched bridge slightly, and the two Selby Racing drivers gets on past. Anders unfortunately losing out on that one. Coming into Indianapolis, we have Emo and Glenn duking it out. Looks like Glenn's actually got around, and Eccles is coming up behind Emo. Go down. I believe this is in Indianapolis Straight. If I did some research, would have known proper. Actually looks like Emo's having a crack back at Glenn. Gets around through into, I believe this is the Porsche S's. Up front we've got Tolly with harassment from Hogs. Looks like Hogs got a good run out there of that first chicane, and now they're racing flat out to the next chicane down the Milestone Straight. We've got race leader here, just go past the pit entrance, going a bit iffy through the Ford chicane, and overcooks it there just before he gets onto the main straight. Gives a chance for Tolly to get past him. And Cobbo has a go. It looks like Moon will even get a chance to go around him as we go up through Dunlop. Bit of touchy-feelies into lap 3. And the Hogs loses 2 positions. However, Hogs does fight back as he's there right on the tail fin of Evil Moon. Coming down to the Daytona chicane. He is all over Moon. We come in close, takes a dive to go up on the inside, got the better flow, should be able to get the ownership of that chicane, and through he goes. Watching Hogs fight back after his mishap there at Ford, gets around Moon to get on the inside run here at the Daytona chicane. Glenn is getting involved as well. Hogs just gets through fine. Looks like Moon is fighting back at him on the outside and getting a good run. Gets around Hogs, but Glenn, he wants a piece of Hogs as well, as it is now a foot race to the next chicane, which I've forgotten the name of. Right, result is Moon and Hogs side by side. Glenn just up on the inside, and all this toing and throwing with Moon comes out second best, but it invites Emo into the mix here, and now it's a four-way fight for the last step on the podium. Speaking of which, we got Cobber giving the challenge down to Tolly for first place, lap 3. Riding with TGT as he goes sideways. It will give a chance for Brits Lightning to get around him. Coming up to the straight, TGT, it goes wide, Brits Lightning goes through. Emo going for the challenge here for Hogs, hoping to put Hogs between him and Moon, as Moon's been a big harassment for Emo. Emo gets around Hogs, puts a decent buffer between him and Moon. Yeah, Hogs and Moon duke it out. Coming down to, I believe it's Indianapolis. Moon punts Hogs into oblivion. Probably will let Eccles and the Duck come through. Moon slows down. And Brits Lightning is now there to challenge Hogs. Coming to, it's the Mulsanne corner. And we have Eccles and the Duck still tricky. Eccles overcooks it a lot. Gives the Duck a chance to go through. Further down the field a little bit, we got Moon challenging Brits Lightning as we come into, well, a bit of a distance into the Indianapolis. But Moon looking to get around on the inside of the sweeping rider. Actually just gets through fairly easily. So don't want to come to grief here into Indianapolis. Ease up a bit, and Moon is made a position. Right, we've got the battle here for the final places. Hogs overcooks it a little bit. TGT doesn't need any invitation and gets around. Hard to tell now. The lights, all you see is now headlights and track. Not much else. Cobber giving Tolly all sorts of harassment. Goes down, hits the curb, overshoots the Mulsanne corner, and Glenn looks like might have a better run here and gets around Cobber. See, they're heading along this long straight here. Cobber not letting him back, no, tucks in behind. These guys still duking it out as we get towards the end of lap 8. Glenn actually creeping up on Tolly. Coming down into Ford, and Glenn overcooks it and then gets reset in the worst possible way. Bit of evasive manoeuvring by Emo to not hit Glenn, and they carry on. Glenn loses the position. And just to show that I am an absolute terrible driver, go and play some sandcastles and let 2, 3 cars go through, possibly 4, I think. Hogs dived into the sandpit. Sympathy as well. Right, before all that, we had Cobber overtake Tolly leading into Daytona. It seems to be a very popular passing spot here. And unlike Monza a couple of weeks ago, or a week ago, it doesn't reverse coming down to the next chicane. It seems to be less likely than it was last week. We've got race leader Cobber. He is running on fumes. He has to pit. He must pit. His tyres are also bleeding red. It will be this time to come into the pits, go through, coming up to the pit entry. Cobber and Tolly jumps around and they both dive into the pits. It's a different kind of pit manoeuvre. It looks like Emo's followed him into the pits. Glenn, also, he too's followed into the pits. Eccles dives into the pits. Evil Moon dives into the pits. Brit's Lightning dives in the pits. TGT dives in the pits. We got here the Duck. The Duck has not dived into the pits. Leaves. What will Hogs do? Hogs looks like he's diving into the pits. So everyone has gone to the pits but the Duck. Racing with the Duck just to see how much of a gap he can get ahead of the other guys. You see everyone's filling up. I'll have to fill right up. There's got to be at least another pit left in this race as... oh dear, it's starting to rain. This could be the deal breaker here. The Duck's still out on soft tyres, but let's see what everyone else has. Look down the bottom left corner. Surely they've seen the rain. No, we've got Tolly racing softs. Cobber racing softs. Emo racing softs. Glenn racing softs. Moon in softs. Eccles in softs. TGT in softs. Brit's Lightning in softs. Hogs in softs. And a pit lane penalty. Every driver is on racing softs and it is raining. This may be the start of when things go bad. It is now bucketing down at the moment. The water pressure is saying we need intermediates. Everyone's on slicks. Cue Waltz of the Flower music. Our race leader is there at the pits for his first pit stop, obviously going into wets or intermediates. We're just watching TGT show everyone how to drive in the wet. As he dives into the pits, Emo dives into the pits, Brits Lightning, Hogs, Cobra a little bit further back. As Ankles rights himself in the background. He should be heading into the pits now. Let's see if he makes it in. No. He misses the pits in spectacular fashion. Glenn goes into the pits. Tolly, unorthodox method of entering the pits. In fact, I think he misses the pits. Eccles into the pits. Tolly eventually gets into the pits. We've got here Moon. He'll be aiming to get into the pits himself. Let's see if he makes it in. So we have Moon not going into the pits. So we're coming down the end of the Mulsanne Straight. Last sector of it, coming into the Mulsanne corner. Let's see how these intermediates operate here on this corner here. Brakes are bright red. The intermediates don't seem to handle too well, as Mo just shows us just there. Brits Lightning skates on through up into second place. You have Tolly diving into the pits after only one lap on full wets. Must be changing to a different set of tyres. Alright, the sunlight is hitting the track and a dry line is appearing. The rain subsided. Watching Eccles, who seems to find wet parts of the track either way. Further into the race, the end of lap 13, Emo goes into the pits. Tyre war, I should say, on the way into the pits. Change to a different set of tyres. Watching Eccles, he too decides to enter the pits, maybe to change to a different set of tyres. His entry to the pits is also a bit questionable for the car. We'll just see what tyres Mo jumps onto, if it's intermediates or softs, or the grass. But he's on softs. Maybe questioning his decision just then, as now he has to try and work himself back onto the track. Tolly scoots on past. Tolly, by the way, in intermediates. Eccles decides to jump out and spin sideways out onto the dry line of the track. 6-second penalty. Well, that's got to have to hurt. He is on racing softs. Mo questioning why he put himself on racing softs. So another reason why he's probably questioning himself putting on racing softs. Parts of the track are so dry now that there's not a skerrick of water on it, so hard wets are just not going to do it for the duck as he dives into the pits, most likely to go on racing softs. Two drivers on intermediates, being Brits Lightning and TGT, hot on Brits' heels. They stay out as they pass the duck who hasn't even fueled yet. Race leader Brits Lightning currently at the moment overshoots it there at Daytona. Up on the curb, TGT no invitation. Brits Lightning into the Armco. And we now have a new race leader TGT. Racing with Oz Glenn. He's the only driver, I believe, on the field at the moment on full wets. It's going to be risky, so just watching him, he dive onto the wet stuff to keep those tyres cool and stop them from burning out totally. Coming through Ford chicane, leading up to the pits, we've got intermediate Brits, intermediate Hogues. They're both going into the pits, probably opting to go to full softs and a full top up. Rear left tyre absolutely done for. TGT has to pit now. It's just not the ideal conditions now for intermediates, and he does need a fuel top up. Fastest driver of the track, Tolly, serving a challenge to Hogues, looking to go around the outside. Hogues has got nowhere to go. Tolly just goes through clean as they come. Mr. Wets, Oz Glenn, he's killed his 2 rear tyres. He's got to have to pit and dives into the pits. Just watch Brit's Lightning as he goes through the final corners, and he will overtake TGT, who's serving his time in the pits. So up into second place we have Brit's Lightning. Tolly now looking to get onto the podium by getting around TGT. Straight down the Mulsanne Straight in between Daytona and the next chicane, which I've forgotten the name of. Tolly just gets around one of the very few spots I've ever seen anyone overtake here, apart from the Tchaikovsky's Waltz of the Flowers. Did I see anyone else overtake down that section? I'll just watch him go through Indianapolis. Brit's Lightning to Indianapolis. Let's see if the camera angle will be right for this time round. So he turns right up in here, out onto that. It just overdoes everything, and the car just wants to hit the Armco. And in the background you see Tolly get around him. That's a tragic outcome for Brit's Lightning. Drops him down to 4th place. TGT gets around. Eccles heads into the pits for a top up of fuel. He hasn't got much left in him. This will be his last pit for the day. Only 6 laps to go. Emo, he too, same situation. He needs a pit for fuel at least. His tyres are also screaming at him. Tolly, who's been putting up fast lap in this sub 330s, just constantly pushing it down, but it's not done his fuel any good, and he dives into the pits, which should give TGT back 2nd position, who's got enough fuel to last another 3 laps. So that could have been a lot of hard work there by Tolly, and might have cost him 2nd spot. Brit's Lightning gets around Tolly, who's in the pits, and that moves Brits up to 3rd place. So current podium is Savage Duck, TGT, Brit's Lightning. Going through like any other division, after an hour and a half of racing, you'd think everyone would be spaced out evenly here, but we've still got challenges and interesting things happen as we're watching Glenn overtake Hogues down the end of the Mulsanne Straight into Mulsanne Corner, and not far behind is the fastest car of the track, Tolly, as he gets around Hogues just like that, and he'll probably even make a move on Glenn before we get to the end of this straight. Man on a mission is Tolly. He still wants to get on the podium. Yeah, and it's just straight through Indianapolis. Tolly gets around. Glenn doesn't want to get tangled up. He's probably quite happy to be just holding a position there and surviving this race. So we're coming into the final lap of the race. Race leader Savage Duck with Evil Moon right behind him, who've just been lapped. All the stars have aligned perfectly for the Duck, providing he can survive this lap with the amount of fuel he's got left. In second is TGT, as he is just about to start his final lap. Right behind him, Brits Lightning, and the man on the mission is Tolly, who is bearing down on him. There is still another 13 kilometers to go for these guys to finish out this race. Moon, who has no intention of wanting to be unlapping himself, has decided to push the Duck along. I guess the Evil Moon does not want to suffer another full lap of this track and what it entails. It has been a grueling race for all drivers here. Daytona chicane here, Brits Lightning in third. He gets out on a little bit of wet stuff there, the curb, and it's just a lapse in judgment at the wrong time of the race. And he's pretty much, as Tolly goes past, surrendered his podium position, and Glenn gets through. So Brits Lightning down into fifth. Coming up to the final lap for these two down in 7th and 8th. Mo, the privateer, is looking to push down one of the team drivers of Eccles down a position as Mo gets into 7th place. Final lap of the race. There's still points up for grabs between all drivers. We're coming into the final two corners of the race. Race winner will be Savage Duck as he crosses the line in first, followed by TGT as he just comes around the corner. He will be second, so we have a 1-2 for Selby Acoustic Racing. In third is Tolly, worked himself up through the pack with a countless amount of pit stops. He will make third spot on the podium, followed closely by Glenn. There was not much between these drivers after an hour and a half of racing, nearly an hour and 3/4. Brits Lightning, he is not that far behind either. Hogs, he's only just finishing his lap as well. And then we have the duel for the 7th and 8th coming up as they go through into the Ford chicanes, I believe it is, past the pit spots entry. Final two corners, it looks like Mo will hold out Eccles for 7th position. And Evil Moon, who has been overlapped by the Duck, rounds out on 9th. Cobber, who retired, in 10th. And Anders, who dropped out of connection, in 11th. And that's the race for everyone.